The hum of the refrigerator was the loudest sound in the house. 2:17 a.m., the digital clock on the nightstand glowed. Gia, my wife of 10 years, slept soundly beside me, or so I thought. A soft ping from her phone, nestled on her side of the bed, broke the silence. Normally, I wouldn't have bothered, but something in the lateness of the hour, the furtive way she'd tucked her phone away earlier, pricked my suspicion. Carefully, I reached over. The phone illuminated with the message, "Dreaming of you, can't wait for tomorrow." X. My blood ran cold. Tomorrow was our anniversary. My gut twisted. Who was X? I nudged Gia gently. "Honey," I whispered, my voice thick with a sudden, unfamiliar dread. She stirred, mumbled something unintelligible. Then, pretending I'd just woken up, I stretched and said, a little louder this time, "Oh, looks like you got a text. Something about tomorrow." She bolted upright, eyes wide with a terror I'd never seen directed at me. Before she could snatch the phone, I read the message aloud, my voice echoing the icy emptiness in my chest. "Dreaming of you, can't wait for tomorrow. X." Her hand flew to her mouth, a stifled gasp escaping. She looked at me, her face ashen, pleading. It was the look of a trapped animal, and in that moment, I felt a strange, detached pity for her. The pity, however, was swiftly consumed by a burning rage. "Who is he?" I asked, the words clipped and cold. She stammered, tears welling up, It's nothing. A misunderstanding. A misunderstanding." I repeated, the incredulity clear in my tone. "A misunderstanding involving dreaming of someone else on our anniversary." She dissolved into sobs, begging me to forgive her, offering flimsy excuses, each one digging her deeper. It was pathetic, and yet, a small part of me still clung to the remnants of the life we'd built together. But that part was rapidly shrinking. "Tell me his name," I demanded, my voice low and dangerous. She finally choked out the name, Connor. Connor Hamilton, a colleague she'd sworn was just a friend. My mind raced, piecing together subtle changes in her behavior over the past few months, the late nights at work, the hushed phone calls, the new perfume she'd started wearing. It all clicked into place, a sickening jigsaw puzzle of betrayal. I didn't sleep. The rage simmered, morphing into a cold, hard resolve. I wouldn't let this destroy me. I wouldn't let them win. I spent the next few hours meticulously planning my revenge. It had to be impactful, something they'd both remember. Something that would dismantle the deceitful little world. The next morning, I acted as if nothing was amiss. I showered, dressed, and even bought her the anniversary flowers she loved, lilies. I presented them with a smile, the irony not lost on me. She looked at me with guilt-ridden eyes, accepting the flowers with trembling hands. "I've made reservations for dinner tonight," I said casually. "At La Fontaine. Your favorite." She managed a weak smile. "That's lovely, David. Connor's joining us," I added, my voice unwavering. Her face crumpled. The blood drained from it, leaving her looking ghostly. She opened her mouth to protest, but I cut her off. "He'll be there. 8 p.m. Don't disappoint me." I left for work, leaving her to stew in her own anxiety. I spent the day at the office in a daze, going through the motions. I called La Fontaine and arranged for a private room. I also made a few other calls, putting the final pieces of my plan into action. At 7:45 p.m., I arrived at the restaurant. Connor was already there, nervously pacing in the lobby. He looked surprised to see me, his eyes darting around, clearly expecting Gia. "David," he stammered, extending a hand. I ignored it. "Mr. Hamilton," I said, my voice tight. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." His face paled. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could utter a word, two burly men, whom I'd hired for the evening, stepped forward. One of them produced a tablet, displaying a slideshow of intimate photos of Connor and Gia, photos they'd clearly shared with each other. The other man handed me a thick envelope. "These," I said, holding up the envelope, "are copies of these photos, along with a detailed account of your affair, addressed to your wife, your boss, and the board of directors at your company. They'll be delivered first thing tomorrow morning unless..." I paused, letting the implication hang heavy in the air. Connor looked like he was about to be sick. "Unless," I continued, "you come with me and tell Gia, in your own words, exactly what you've been doing." He nodded, defeated. We entered the private room. Gia was already there, looking stunning in a red dress. The table was set for 3. A bottle of champagne sat chilling in an ice bucket. It was a macabre parody of a romantic anniversary dinner. Seeing Connor with me, her face fell. I gestured for him to sit. He did, avoiding her gaze. Gia, I began, my voice calm and controlled. Connor has something to tell you. He confessed everything, his voice shaking, recounting their clandestine meetings, their whispered promises, their stolen moments. Gia listened, her face a mask of shame and despair. She didn't interrupt, didn't offer any excuses. She simply listened as her world crumbled around her. When he was finished, I turned to Gia. Anything to add? She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I nodded. Good. I turned to the men standing by the door. You can go. They left, taking the envelope with them. I looked at Connor, his face a mixture of relief and humiliation. You can leave too, I said. Don't ever contact Gia again. He scrambled out of the room, a broken man. I turned to Gia. The anger had subsided, replaced by a profound sadness. I loved you, Gia, I said quietly. I really did. She didn't reply. She simply sat there, weeping silently, the remnants of her deceitful fantasy shattered around her. I took one last look at the woman who had been my wife, the woman I thought I knew, and walked out, leaving her alone in the opulent, empty room, surrounded by the ghostly echoes of what might have been. I left the lilies on the table. A final, bitter anniversary gift. My revenge wasn't about inflicting pain. It was about reclaiming my dignity, about taking back control. It was about walking away with my head held high, leaving the wreckage of their betrayal behind me. It was a new beginning, a chance to rebuild my life, free from the shackles of deceit and heartbreak. And that, I realized, was the most satisfying revenge of all.